So for this discussion, I've decided to talk about a speed agility program for a college football program that's in season. So when you're talking about an in-season speed agility training session, you don't really need to work as much as necessary during the off-season because most of the work should already be done. When you go into this, you really want to start thinking about maintaining either the speed agility that's been created already through your off-season and preseason programming, or just working on simple running technique movements and stuff to sort of complement what they're already doing in practice and movements they're already participating in every day. So two of the drills that you want to do, or that I would choose for sort of just technique work, would be the pose chop. So you want to make sure that you're going for a certain distance, either 5 to 10 yards. You don't want to overdo it, you don't want to underdo it. Starting off, you would pick either right leg or left leg up. I'm going to start with right leg up, obviously working opposite arm, opposite leg, so you have the proper running technique. You want to make sure that the ankle is up and tucked and the toe is up. Okay, because if nobody runs properly like this, it's going to feel weaker. It's not going to feel loaded in the hamstring. So you want to make sure everything is tucked, nice and tight. Okay, that's going to load everything in the hamstring, get you ready for the proper running form you would do in like a typical high knee or just a regular situation. Keeping the torso upright, because you don't want to have that anterior pelvic tilt that's going to impinge the knee from driving up and down. You want to make sure it's going to be as fluid as they can toward that natural running angle at about 45 degrees. We're just performing the drill upright so we can work that technique and get that hip flexion strength that we want out of the drill. So for here, it would be on a cadence for 5 to 10 yards. Every time I would say hit is when you would switch. It's a 2 count pose chop, so it's 1, 2, and then you hold the pose. So again, here, tucked, ready to go. You have opposite arm, opposite leg. Say hit, 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 hit. So again, you're trying to drive through the floor as hard as possible, striking the ground. 1, 2, assuming the pose that you started with in the position you started with. So you don't want to go 1 or 2. You can do a 3 count pose chop or a 1 count pose chop. I would just choose a 2 count because it's easiest to understand and it helps get that fluid motion of running. The next would be a lunge and switch. So this is again starting on the ground, one knee down, knee here, right bent in a lunge. When on the ready position, you would bring the knee off the ground, keeping the torso upright, okay, loading both hips. So you have this one is going to be fully extended, this one will be flexed. This is just getting you set up in a position where you can kind of get that running technique with the high knee, but now you're just loading and a quick switch. Okay, not trying to get too high off the ground. You want to keep everything low. It's working that quick motion of the legs to sort of help increase strike speed, which then will make you faster if you do it properly. And the more you work on this, in theory, the faster you should be. So it'll be here, ready. You say switch, 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 switch. So again, trying to stay as low as possible, just maintaining that lunge and not getting up. Just moving quick feet underneath you should make you faster in theory. Next would be a power skater, sort of work lateral movements and agility. This also is good as a sort of a preventative care movement in terms of injury and knee injury, and to teach you how to land when you're jumping. So you would be one leg loaded, bringing the leg across, shooting out as far as possible, landing on that leg, trying to keep everything in line. So you have shoulder, hip, knee, toe, landing in line. Again, it's just proper landing mechanics. But you'd work that here, going for reps, going as far as you can, landing, loading, landing, loading, landing. After that, because it's an in-season program, you don't really want to overdo it. They're probably already lifting. They should be lifting. They're going to be practicing. So in order to just work a little bit more on the speed factor, you'd want to run sprints that are going to be comparable to what they're doing in the games. So you want to go 10, 20-yard sprints with maximal rest. So maybe a minute to 2 minutes. Allow all the energy systems to restore, and then allow them to give a maximal effort for each sprint. So again, I wouldn't recommend anything more than maybe 5 to 10 sprints if you're working speed, just to keep them so they're not overtraining and not overloading their bodies, but still allowing for growth. If I were doing this for any other team, say it were football outside of the season or soccer outside the season, obviously you'd want to work a little bit more agility. You can do a little bit more toward the speed factor, so you can actually increase the workouts, the exercises, the movements. You can increase the sets and reps because they're not going to have that factor of being in season and having to compete. And especially at the college level, you want to win, and that's kind of one of the sadly biggest factors that keeps people their jobs. So you can't overload the athletes. If it were an off-season program for, say, soccer or rugby or football, then you could overload them a little bit more just to kind of create that overreaching effect, which they should hopefully grow from more. In season, you're really just trying to maintain. So you don't want to overdo any of the agility workouts, speed workouts, to where it can impact their performance negatively.